Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly break down how Inter overcame a 2-goal deficit to win the Milan derby. But before we do that, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel on our road to 3K subscribers. When we break down the game and do look at the board, we have Milan in a 4-4-1-1. We see Inter shifting out into their 3-5-2 with Alexis partnering Lukaku. And the key theme in this game was that Milan were dominant in the first half and Inter were able to storm back. But when we assess Milan's dominance in that opening period, they were very good without the ball, and going forward they found a clear route to goal. And although it didn't test Pioli, it did show that they found an area that they could exploit in Inter's backline. What we ended up seeing from Milan without the ball is that they did drop off a bit deeper. They had Ibrahimovic ahead of Vrij, but they didn't encourage Rebic or Castillejo to push forward and close down Godin and Skriniar from the offset. What we saw here was interesting. So we ended up seeing Castillejo looking to block off the passing lane from Skriniar into the path of Ashley Young. But if Ashley Young was able to get the ball, they would have him go 1v1 against Conte on that left side. You had Barella ahead of Kessié, and Kessié was doing a good job of closing him down. And we also ended up seeing Çalhanoğlu sitting on Brozovic so that Inter couldn't build from deep. On the left-hand side, it was a bit more interesting because you have Benacer, who should be stepping into the path of Vecino, but they had Benacer sit ahead of Inter's front two so they could try and make it somewhat of a 3v2 in case Romagnoli or Kjaer did need support. So Benacer stuck into his position. They had Theo Hernandez pushing forward against Candreva, and what we ended up seeing on that left-hand side also is that we had Rebic sitting on top of Vecino so that he couldn't get on the ball. So that's how Milan looked to close down, and it was effective. Inter's midfield struggled to have any influence on the game, and they weren't winning 1v1 battles out in the wider areas. What we ended up seeing there was that at times we did have Rebic push forward and close down Godin, and if that was the case, then that's when we would see Theo immediately push forward into the path of Candreva and then have Benacer step forward to close down Vecino. Milan were organized, they stifled Inter Milan, and they ensured that they couldn't create attacks from open play. Whereas going forward, they were able to get the better of Inter Milan's press. We knew how Inter would look to close down, have Sanchez and Lukaku closing down the center backs, have Candreva and Ashley Young pushing forward. Initially in the earlier stages, we ended up seeing Brozovic push forward to close down Benacer, and that was a bit odd based off the fact that it did leave Vecino without a marker. But as that game did persist, we would see Brozovic shift out to Çalhanoğlu, and Vecino would be tasked with pushing out to Benacer if need be. What we ended up seeing from the wider players is that Castillejo was often in a 1v1 battle with Ashley Young as Inter kind of retreated back into their overall shape because Conte wasn't pushing forward. But on the left-hand side, Inter did face a few issues. One being the fact that with Rebic often shifting out to that left channel, he would be tasked with going 1v1 with Candreva. Now, what you end up seeing here is that you do need someone closing down Theo Hernandez, who did adopt in a very advanced position, but with Vecino dealing with Benacer, that did leave space for Hernandez to push forward. What you should see here from Inter is that rather than having those wingbacks push high, unless they know they're going to close down well, is have the shuttler shift across and then have Brozovic come across with Barella, but they didn't do that. They stuck to their man-v-man task well, and what ended up happening here was that Theo Hernandez became the game's key player based off the fact that his over and underlapping runs weren't being tracked and he was delivering quality crosses into the box. We also have to give some credit to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who did a very good job dropping off to link play. His hold-up play was very good, and he was very involved throughout, scoring a goal and providing an assist, but his overall build-up play in open play was very key, and he was able to offer a different outlet to that Milan attack because they could play balls into him, he could get other players involved, and he ensured that Milan could push forward. Nonetheless, in the opening stages, we saw Inter exploit that left side. We had Kessié winning a loose ball in midfield and sliding it out to Theo Hernandez in a narrow left channel position. That did pull out Vecino, and we ended up seeing the ball shifted out into the path of Rebic ahead of Candreva. But what we ended up seeing here is Theo Hernandez making an underlapping run beyond Vecino to receive the ball back from Rebic, and he takes his first touch towards the byline to deliver across into that 6-yard box, but Vrij is able to clear it before Ibrahimovic could get onto it. Shortly after that, we had Castelleo winning a loose ball in midfield, and he ended up playing a pass in between Vecino and Brozovic to combine with Ibrahimovic and get the ball back as he drifted out to that left channel. Now what we end up seeing from Castelleo there is that he's running at Candreva, and we do have Vecino shifting across, but Theo Hernandez once again breaks on the overlap, and he pulls the ball back beyond Vrij, and we end up seeing Skriniar poke it away from danger before Ibrahimovic could get a shot off. But as you could see, Theo Hernandez constantly getting down that left channel. Vecino, because he doesn't have to step forward to close down Benacer, is tasked with tracking that run, and he wasn't doing a good job there. And because they had Rebic isolating Candreva, it was often a 2v1 situation. And frankly, if Inter's center backs weren't doing a good job there, Ibrahimovic probably would have 2 goals. Oddly enough, Milan generated their goal from the opposite flank. Nonetheless, Theo was involved once again, switching the ball out into the path of Castelleo, and this was one of the few times where we did see a Conte overlapping run. So that was a key theme to Milan's attack, even though it was often down that left-hand side. But what we end up seeing here that was key is that we have the run of Rebic across Vrij. So Rebic runs across Vrij to take him out of the game, and we see Zlatan position himself in between Godin and in between Candreva. He has the advantage over both of those players peeling off to the back post. And what we end up seeing there is that Castelleo does clip that ball to the back post, and Ibrahimovic nods it across Vrij into the path of Rebic, and Pioli should do a better job of clearing that. Hernandez would, but this is what happens when you have a backup keeper playing in such a high-profile game. Mistakes could be made, and he wasn't able to clear the ball there, and Rebic put Milan up 1-0. However, when we look to the build-up to Milan's second goal, once again it stemmed from the overlap, this time on the left-hand side. What we end up seeing there is that we have Benacer getting past Vecino in midfield, and he ends up switching the ball out into the path of Castelleo, who is closed down tightly by Ashley Young. Castelleo is able to cut in centrally, and he plays a ball beyond Barella, who is ahead of Kessié, and to the right of Brozovic for Çalhanoğlu, dropping off a bit deeper. Çalhanoğlu and Rebic do combine, and what we end up seeing here is that we have Rebic running at Godin, we have Çalhanoğlu running at Candreva, but no one tracking the overlapping run of Theo Hernandez. So when Çalhanoğlu slides that ball out to Theo Hernandez, he ends up delivering a dangerous ball into that 6-yard box that Vrij ends up clearing out of danger before Rebic could get onto it, as he did look to make a run in beyond Vrij to try and get onto Theo Hernandez's cross. Again, the overlapping run does get Milan into good positions, and Theo Hernandez played a key role in Milan's dominance in that first half. And from that ensuing corner kick, Ibrahimovic was able to double Milan's lead. Whereas when you look at Inter, they struggled to create chances in that first half, given Milan's shape. Besides that, this was Milan's dominant half of the season. They dominated down the left-hand side through overloads. They stopped Inter from playing through midfield. But frankly, besides that Vecino chance, the only thing keeping Inter in that game was the goalpost and some last-ditch defending from their center backs. So when we look to the second half, we were expecting a significant tactical change from Antonio Conte, but what we ended up seeing here was 2 slight modifications. One being that he did have runners occupying Theo Hernandez as Inter looked to push forward, and that helped Candreva get into more attacking positions to influence the game. And the second modification did see Brozovic get more time on the ball to play penetrative passes to bypass Milan's midfield. So when we look to the build-up to that first goal, what we end up seeing there was that we had Brozovic get on the ball in that midfield zone, and he was able to play a reverse pass in between Kessié and Castillejo for Alexis Sanchez, positioned ahead of Conte, and Alexis Sanchez was able to switch the ball out into the path of Candreva, who was free down that right channel based off the fact that Vecino pushed himself forward to occupy Theo Hernandez. When Candreva gets that ball, Theo Hernandez shifts Vecino off to another marker, and he's able to now step into the path of Candreva, who fires a low cross into the box that Donnarumma has to push away from danger. Kessié does clear his lines, but what ends up happening there is that Skriniar wins his individual battle with Ibrahimovic by stepping in a bit early, and Barella drops that loose ball off back to Brozovic. Brozovic once again shifts the ball out to Candreva, who now is going 1v1 with Rebic dropping off a bit deeper, and he's able to cut across Rebic, and when Theo Hernandez does step forward, he does block Candreva's second cross into the box, but it ends up falling to Brozovic, who provides a moment of brilliance to volley that ball into the low corner to trim the lead down to 1 goal. But when you break down that entire sequence, we have Candreva twice being able to attack from that right channel. The first time Theo came out late, the second time you fancy him to get the better of Rebic going forward. And what we ended up seeing here was on 3 separate occasions, Brozovic was unmarked, and that's on Çalhanoğlu to close him down. If he doesn't close him down, one of the midfield players have to step forward to ensure that Brozovic doesn't influence the game. And when we look to the second goal, once again, it's another breakdown, but it highlights Conte getting players to occupy the fullbacks. What we end up seeing here is that Godin gets that ball from the throw-in, and he's able to cut across Rebic. So that's the second time Rebic is beaten when he drops off deeper into his half to try and close down markers. So Godin cuts across him, and he's able to play a pass across Benacer into the path of Alexis Sanchez. But when we assess how that pass even gets there, what we see here is we have Lukaku occupying Theo Hernandez. We have Romagnoli occupied by Vecino. So those 2 players get split as Alexis Sanchez makes a run across Conte and Kier. That's the second time we have Alexis Sanchez occupying Conte. He played that switch to Candreva in the build-up to that first goal, and here he ends up making that darting run to beat the offside line and receive the ball in the 6-yard box ahead of Donnarumma. So Alexis Sanchez receives that ball ahead of Donnarumma, and we end up seeing Theo Hernandez run towards him to try and swarm him and close him down, and that creates an avenue for Vecino to receive a free pass back from Alexis Sanchez to fire a shot past Donnarumma and off Kier into the back of the net. When you break down those 2 goals, you see the slight modifications Conte made in that second half. Obviously, they were more aggressive with their pressing as they started that second half with that high press, but nonetheless, you end up seeing the fullbacks being occupied, which creates space for the wingbacks to get forward. And even in that sequence, we see Godin get forward, and that was pivotal to Inter's fight back. What was also important for Inter in that fight back was that we saw Barella and Vecino doing a great job of helping out their wingbacks to ensure that there were no more overloads in those wider areas. And shortly after that, we end up seeing Inter take the lead, and once again, we see Milan's defense being occupied by Lukaku and Vecino. But when we break down that goal, we have Skriniar pushing forward from left center back, and he slides the ball out into the path of Ashley Young, and Young is closed down by Castillejo. And what's also should be noted here is that we have Barella making a dart into that left channel to pull out Kessié. So we have Castillejo closing down Ashley Young, and we also end up seeing Brozovic pushing forward beyond Çalhanoğlu based on the fact that Çalhanoğlu is facing Skriniar so that the pass can't go back into his path. What we end up seeing here from Young is that he plays the ball across Castillejo into the path of Brozovic, and once again, now we have Brozovic free, and what he does locate is he sees Vecino making a darting run in between Theo Hernandez and Romagnoli, and we have Lukaku's presence occupying Romagnoli. So Brozovic plays that long ball over the top into the path of Vecino, and he nods the ball off of Romagnoli into the path of Lukaku in the box, box. And before Lukaku can test Donnarumma, his shot is blocked by Kier for a corner kick. And from that ensuing corner kick, we end up seeing Vrij get across Romagnoli to not a superb effort past Donnarumma. Vrij's goal did prompt Conte into a change. He brought on Eriksen for Alexis Sanchez, and we did see Inter shift into more of a 5-3-1-1, with Eriksen providing support for Lukaku, but ensuring that now they did have a 4v3 in midfield to try and close out the game. That does see Lukaku with more insistence to break in behind on the counterattack, but the problem here was that even when he was trying to make those runs in between the center backs or in the gaps between Theo Hernandez and Conte, what we end up seeing there was that we didn't have any Inter players finding that pass on time. There were a few occasions where Barella held his pass and we saw Lukaku run offside, and that was the biggest issue in maximizing Lukaku in that system change. We did see Pioli turn to his bench. He brought on Rafael Leao, Bonaventura came on, and Lucas Paqueta, and we did see a few shifts. Rafael Leao was dropping off a bit deeper to pick up the ball. Paqueta played a bit higher with Çalhanoğlu a bit deeper, and Paqueta was trying to get around the box. And we saw Conte and Bonaventura push higher up the pitch to try and offer more of an attacking threat for Milan. Milan flooded the box, and we did see Ibrahimovic hit the post, but when you even look at Inter's chances, Barella broke free on goal and should have beat Donnarumma. Eriksen hit the crossbar from a free kick from distance, and then eventually Lukaku did kill off the game with a superb header over his man. When you break down that game as a whole, Milan were the better side in that first half. Ibrahimovic's presence was pivotal to their 2 goals. They were able to break forward on the overlap through Theo Hernandez, and they stopped Inter from playing with their organized and disciplined shape. Nonetheless, Conte did shift a few things in that second half by getting Vecino and Lukaku forward to occupy center backs and Theo Hernandez. They were able to stop those overlapping runs from the Milan fullbacks. Brozovic had more time on the ball, and because Vecino and Lukaku were getting into more advanced positions to occupy the center backs and the fullbacks, that allowed Candreva to get involved, and Inter were clinical when those chances were presented, and that was a difference maker here. But let me know what you guys think. Are Inter now favorites to win the Scudetto? How do you think Eriksen will fit into Conte's side? And what does this result say about Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Pioli going forward? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And once again, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the InnerViews.